go on to the centre diff. We build in a similar way using the flat drive cups for the braking. 2 flat ones. So again, get the white grease. Make sure you get plenty in the groove. Both ways. Make sure there's some good grease in this. Then you put your bearing on. Make sure it's free running, and your O-ring. You should just push straight through. And seated like that. With the centre diff, you don't have a set screw for the pin because you have a bigger area. The reason why they have a bigger area in the centre diff is the diff takes a lot more abuse in the centre, and it allows more oil for cooling. So once you've got your pin in, make sure it rotates nicely. It's in the centre. Then you can place your first gear in. Make sure that seats nicely on the pin and flush and rotates good. Then you have your bars again and 4 gears. And 4 shims. Put your 4 diff gears on. Make sure they rotate nicely. Shim on both sides. And then set your gearing, making sure that your shims are in and the bar is flat there. Then the same again. Shim at either end. Make sure they spin nicely. And again, making sure both bars, edges are flat and it rotates nicely. Once that's done, you can use the silicone diff oil again, and we're going to use 5,000 in this, as recommended in the setup. Try and get some of the oil in the gaps so that it sits down easier. Again, fill this diff up to about 80%. And lower your top gear. Make sure all the oil's around. Get on the base. That will need some more oil in. Again, so it's just so the oil's just coming up to the top of the inner gears on the edge. With the excess oil, get the gasket and rub the oil in to the gasket. Most important, you do this for a good seal. And when you replace your diff oil, I would replace the gasket as well. It may look good, it may be okay, but it could leak, so I would recommend buying some new gaskets each time you do this process. And while you're letting that settle, we get the centre gear, the other flat drive cup. So you've got two matching drive cups, your bearing, and then some more white grease that's supplied in the kit, liberally. Make sure that the grease gets well into the groove. And again, one way, make sure it spins okay. Other way. Make sure there's no gaps in the grease that you've put in the groove. Then put your bearing on. And seat your O-ring in. It should push through. Make sure it's seated correctly. And then put your pin through, making sure you don't catch the O-ring when you put the pin through. And then spin the O-ring, pulling it down just to make sure it seats nicely. And that's what you're looking for. Then again, line this in between the screw holes so it's relatively straight, and line that between the two screw holes. Make sure the pin's in the middle, and you should line that up with the screw holes. Then you get your 12 by M3 4 screws. Just gently put the screws in. Making sure they're seated in nice and straight. Tighten up. You probably ask why I haven't got an electric screwdriver. When I first build anything, I don't really use the electric screwdriver because of you're damaging the thread in the plastic if the screw gets too hot. So, and when you take the screw back out again, you may find that the melted plastic to the metal will take all the thread out. So for the first time, it's always best to screw in by hand so the screw doesn't get too tight going into the plastic, because it's a special plastic with fibre in it as well for extra strength, so this will cause a lot of friction going into the diff case. So once you get it near tight, you set the first one down. So it just nips up tight. Then you do the second one across. And across. And across. Just nipping them up tight, not over tightening them. And again. turns freely. Then nip, go from one screw across to number 2 screw. And again, this is just seating down until it starts getting tight. So start at number 1 screw, just quarter of a turn tight, quarter of a turn on number 2, across to number 3, and across to number 4, and then repeat another quarter of a turn until it feels quite tight, into number 3, into number 4, crossways. Again, this is seating down the gasket, so there's no risk of any leaks, and you repeat this until you don't feel you can get it any tighter. And there you have the diff built, nice and free running. Check that always feels the same. And there you have the centre diff built, complete, ready to go in. Obviously wipe excess oil off, especially on the centre diff, because you don't want any oil splattering going onto your disc brakes and then coating into your brake pads. Okay.